President Joe Brandon returned home to the White House this weekend, having spent the previous 10 days waging a one-man gastrological terror campaign that began on the shores of the Mediterranean and finished on the banks of the River Clyde, and which wound up being the talk of the whole continent by the time it was through. Elderly Europeans, when asked if they could remember an American asshole causing that much trouble on a single visit, said you'd probably have to go back to General Patton in 1944. We already knew about the incident at the Vatican, for which there is, of course, no official confirmation, and since the Vatican likes to keep secrets for a minimum of 500 years, it won't be within our own lifetimes that we'll ever find out definitively whether the leader of the free world actually messed his trousers during an official diplomatic audience with the Vicar of Christ. But like Joe himself might say, come on, man, like somebody would just make that up. And if they had, which one is actually worse? That the president crapped himself in public, or that we have a president who's in such an enfeebled state that a spurious rumor about him crapping himself in public seems perfectly believable to most people. But that's easy for me to say, since I am not the poor bastard who had to clean it up. To whom does that task fall, anyway? What page is it on in the handbook, the organizational chart that delegates responsibility for attending to presidential bathroom accidents? Do the Secret Service guys all look at each other and say, not it, at the same time? And then does Dr. Jill Brandon say, don't you assholes look at me, I am a doctor, and I am the goddamn FLOTUS, I don't wipe asses, I don't even wipe my own ass. So then poor Lady Ginger McFirebush of Alabaster Farms has to go do it herself. Okay, sir, almost finished back here. I just need to circle back one more time and make sure I got all the little clingers and everything. And where the hell do you get him a fresh pair of skivvies? Your Holiness, where in Vatican City do you suppose we could find a 3-pack of BVD Tidy Whities? Also, we're going to need a dry cleaner who works really incredibly fast. And damn it, I want somebody in the Joe Brandon inner circle to become disgruntled and write a tell-all book, because I swear to God, I will actually pre-order that son of a bitch on Amazon if he or she promises a full and complete accounting of the facts surrounding Operation Holy Shit, as I like to call it. The facts we do know are these. Papal audiences with visiting heads of state normally last 25 to 30 minutes. There is then a joint photo op and press gaggle afterward that lasts another 10 to 15 minutes. This meeting wasn't supposed to be abnormally long, but it went on for 1 hour and 20 minutes, or about 3 times longer than it should have. And the joint appearance afterward was scrubbed altogether, and the Vatican people, the people who run the logistics of these things, were acting very strangely indeed. Running to and fro, hither and thither, acting all haggard, hustling the press out of the room, not providing any explanation. And it was a member of the traveling White House press corps who said the word on the street was that President Brandon had done an oopsie in his pants in the middle of his papal audience. Papal audience. Bit of a Freudian slip there, sorry. But hey, Barack always did say Joe was a great number 2 man, right? So I guess in some strange way it was actually an improvement later on in the week in Glasgow when, while in the middle of chatting up Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Cornwall, the president reportedly cut loose with a fart that was right out of the campfire scene from Blazing Saddles. By all accounts it was long and loud, nice pitch, good body, but it was the duration that really set it apart. And I don't know about you, ladies and gentlemen, but I, for one, I know I sleep better at night knowing my president has the conviction and the moral courage to cut loose with a 6-second-long turbo fart right in the middle of a conversation with the wife of the next King of England. If that is not a perfect microcosm of the last 250 years of American-British relations, I have no idea what is. Except then Joe was like, damn it, I just blew a hole in my emergency underwear that I bought at the Vatican gift shop. From high atop the battlements of Castle Curmudgeon, where men's underwear and ladies' lingerie are different departments and always will be, good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America and all ships at sea. Welcome to the program. I am your eponymous host and humble servant, and we need to talk about the Porky Pig Fatback Bacon Appreciation Act of 2021, also quaintly known as the fake infrastructure bill. Well, let's just say it's as infrastructure-y as an infrastructure bill can be, whose contents are 8% infrastructure and 92% radical leftist pork barrel pie in the sky. Pork in the Sky? If Congress had a favorite Primus album, it would be Pork Soda. In fact, if you loaded all the pork in this bill into actual barrels, the stack would reach to the moon and back 11 times. And this is the funniest kind of pork barrel spending, because nearly every one of the pork-tastic government expanding spending initiatives contained within this monstrosity is something that could never get passed on its own in a dedicated piece of legislation with an accurate name on it. But then that's the whole point of the game, isn't it? That's exactly why you bury all of your outrageous, indefensible spending into some totally unrelated bill, lard it up with so many items that nobody can keep track because the thing weighs in at 3,500 pages now, and then slap some wildly misleading title on it, like the Flowers and Rainbows and Unicorns and Jobs and Prosperity and Happiness Act of 2021, then go on some fake cable news TV show and declare that anyone opposing the bill obviously hates flowers and rainbows and unicorns and jobs and prosperity and happiness. And they're probably a white supremacist too. I bet they even supported the January 6th insurrection. But ladies and gentlemen, at times like these, when we are faced with a constant dizzying barrage of data and information, I am reminded how truly lucky we are to have people smarter and better than ourselves who have the training and the experience to navigate the murky waters of good governance and to make the decisions that we simple hinterland folk simply lack the knowledge and sophistication to even comprehend, much less appreciate. And I'm speaking, of course, about the real heroes in this country. The professional government bureaucrats. In fact, I used to be so ignorant and unsophisticated, I actually thought it was impossible to spend your way out of an inflation crisis. I used to live in a simple, two-dimensional world where I naively believed that trying to remedy runaway inflation by the mass printing of currency would cause a self-sustaining feedback loop of money devaluation that would culminate in scenes straight out of Weimar Germany, with mother taking her wheelbarrow of cash down to the grocery store to get a loaf of bread, provided there is a load of bread there for the buying, since the guy who drives the truck and delivers the bread wasn't able to get a tank of gas yesterday because you can only buy gasoline on certain days, and even if he can get a tank of gas tomorrow, his truck could break down at any time because he needs a new alternator, but none are available because the replacement part, it's made in China, and there's nobody to unload the cargo ship that it's sitting on. But thanks to the helpful men and women of the federal administrative bureaucrat class, I no longer have to harbor such mistaken views about how free market economies work and how their ability to function in good working order can be crippled completely by administrative incompetence. Because as it turns out, everything is always fine in the end as long as you just say the right words. Because when you say the right words, you create the right feelings. And when we are all feeling the right feelings, we're more likely to stop noticing that our entire society is being torn asunder by ineptitude and mismanagement. And it was in that spirit that the Secretary of Transportation, Mayor Pete Buttigieg, Mrs. Chasen Glesman, came out to take a victory lap over the passing of Porkapalooza 2021, as if he had done something to make it happen, as if he's done anything noteworthy since assuming office, aside from taking a 2-month maternity leave. But damn it! Sometimes the most important part of politics is putting the lipstick on the pig. And by God, this pig has got some big freaking lips on it. And besides, we're supposed to be pretending this is an infrastructure bill, so the transportation secretary needs to understand that he's got an important role to play in this fake-ass pantomime. President Joe Brandon wants to make sure the importance of this assignment is well understood. So he calls Secretary Mayor Pete into his office. He closes the door. He turns around. He puts a grandfatherly hand on Secretary Mayor Pete's shoulders. And he says, "I'm sorry, son. It's been a long day. Who are you again, and why did I bring you in here?" And Secretary Mayor Pete says, "I'm Mayor Pete Buttigieg, sir. I'm the Secretary of Transportation." And Joe says, "Secretary of Transportation? That's a real thing?" And Secretary Mayor Pete says, "If I'm being honest, No, it's not a real thing. In fact, I took 2 months off for gay paternity leave earlier this year, and nobody even noticed. And Joe says, oh, that's right, you're the gay fella who's never at the meetings. And Secretary Mayor Pete says, that's right, sir. I'm the gay fella who's never at the meetings. And Joe says, yeah, see, I knew there was a gay fella, and he had a funny name, and I made him the secretary of something or other. But then you were never at the meetings, and I sort of forgot there was a Secretary of Transportation. How long has that office been around anyway? And Secretary Mayor Pete says, the hell if I know, sir, but hold on a sec. Let me Google it. It says 1966, sir, so 55 years ago. And Joe says, what does the Secretary of Transportation do exactly? And Secretary Mayor Pete says, I ain't gonna lie, sir. I have no freaking idea. But this is the coolest job I've ever had in my life. Well, I've only really had one other job besides this one, but you get the point. And Joe says, do I ever? President, it's my 4th job, and that's only if you count that summer I was a lifeguard at the Wilmington YMCA. And Mayor Secretary Pete says, was that the summer of Corn Pop, sir? And Joe says, summer of Corn Pop, you betcha. Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran with some bad boys. And Secretary Mayor Pete says, yes, sir. So I've heard. And Joe says, Secretary Mayor Pete, I've learned a lot about you and your job these past few minutes, but there's still one thing that's bugging me. Why the hell did I bring you in here? And Secretary Mayor Pete says, well, sir, it would be presumptuous of me to speculate on that, but I think it may have had something to do with the fake infrastructure bill that the Congress just passed. And Joe says, oh, right, because you're the transportation guy. And we're pretending the bill is an infrastructure bill, so I want you to go out there and tell the press a bunch of transportation-y stuff that we're going to do with the money. Now, do I have it just about right so far? And Secretary Mayor Pete says, I can't say, sir, because this is your plan after all. I just came in here to get your instructions on how you want me to proceed. And it looks like I'm due to begin my press conference in 7 minutes. So if you could finish briefing me on what I'm supposed to say, that would be great. And Joe says, I got to tell you, Secretary Mayor Pete, I'm having a hard time coming up with a good angle for this one. I mean, when you're hoodwinking people this bad, when you're insulting their intelligence with a bunch of talk about how we're going to spend our way out of an inflation crisis, there is almost no other option but to just dial that bullshit knob up to 11 and get even more comically absurd with your false explanations. And Secretary Mayor Pete says, I think I see where you're going with this, sir. And I've just had an idea that I think you might be pleased with. And Joe says, or we could just play it by the book and make it all about racism. And Secretary Mayor Pete says, well, that's not exactly where my mind was going, but you, sir, are the leader of the free world, not me. And Joe says, okay, what was your idea? And Secretary Mayor Pete says, well, I was thinking we could just tell them some made-up BS figure for the number of miles of roads and bridges we're going to build. And Joe says, nah, that's too risky. Let's just go with racism. And Secretary Mayor Pete says, so you want me to go out there and tell people that the roads are racist? And Joe says, that's right, Secretary Mayor Pete. I want you to walk out there to that lectern and tell that press corps that former segregationist Senator Joe Brandon is going to tear up every square foot of racist road in this entire country and replace it with a woke, tolerant, inclusive, equitable, diverse, non-racist road. A road that everybody can drive on without feeling the pain of systemic racism. And Secretary Mayor Pete says, what should I say if someone asks me what the difference is between a racist road and a non-racist road? And Joe says, I ain't going to hold your hand all the way to the ice cream stand, Secretary Mayor Pete. I hired you to be the gay fellow who runs the most superfluous agency in the entire federal government. So when I tell you to get your ass out there and talk about racist roads, I expect not to have to take care of the details myself. And Secretary Mayor Pete says, you're right, sir. It's just that I've never had a job that required any sort of creativity or timely decision-making, so this is all new to me. But President Brandon, sir, I very badly want to justify the faith that you showed in me when you gave me this fake job just because I like to have sex with other men. So I will be damned if I'm going to fail to effectively discharge this task that you've assigned to me. If you want racist roads, sir, then as God is my witness, Secretary Mayor Pete Buttigieg will give you as many racist roads as a president could ever ask for. And Joe says, did you realize I'm so old that on the day you were born, I was 2/3 of the way through my second term in the Senate? And Secretary Mayor Pete says, yes, sir, you are freakishly old. But I think that's why you did so well with the Civil War veterans in the last election. They finally had the chance to elect a president who looks like them. And Joe says, okay, we got to hurry this thing up. And Secretary Mayor Pete says, why is that? So we don't upset the press? And Joe says, no, you idiot, because Murder, She Wrote starts in 3 minutes. And Dr. Jill says I always get cranky if I miss the beginning. And Secretary Mayor Pete says, right, okay, how about this? I will go out there and explain that if a highway goes through a city and there's a white neighborhood on one side and a black neighborhood on the other side, then boom, you have a racial disparity, therefore you have a racist highway. A highway that was obviously and inarguably built by filthy white racists for filthy white racists for the sole purpose of advancing the filthy white racist cause through the insipid practice of white supremacist highway construction. And Joe says, all right, now we're talking. You're doing great. We might have to keep you around. And not just because you like to have sex with other men. And Secretary Mayor Pete says, sir, I am deeply moved to hear you say that. For a while, I do take a deep and abiding pride being the former gay homosexual mayor of South Bend, Indiana, who enjoys having sex with other men. But it wasn't until this moment, hearing you express such confidence in my abilities, that I knew I was up to the task of being the gay homosexual United States Secretary of Transportation, who enjoys having sex with other men. And Joe says, all right, stop blubbering, kid. You're starting to creep me out. But we're going to need one more thing. Racist highways, that's all well and good. You've done great work there, but we need something else. We need another thing, something that really pops, something to be the cherry on top of the fake racism pie. So come on now, Secretary Mayor Pete. Let's land this bird on that carrier deck. Tell me what else you've got for me. And Secretary Mayor Pete says, I don't know, sir. I really had to rack my brain coming up with that first thing. I'm not used to doing this much work, frankly. I mean, for God's sake, I am coming off a 2-month paternity leave here, and you ask me to do all this freaking work when I get back? This is barbaric. And Joe says, calm down, son. We're in this together. I just need one more race hustle out of you. You can do this. I picked you for this job for a reason, and that reason was because you like having sex with other men. But never mind that now. I know you've got what it takes to think of one more racism angle before you go out there and address those reporters. And Secretary Mayor Pete says, you're right, sir. I can do this because I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, why the hell is road asphalt black? And Joe says, yeah, baby! That's what I'm talking about. And Secretary Mayor Pete says, who else but filthy white supremacist devils would choose to color their roads and highways black? Of all the colors to choose from, they picked that one. Because something that's black, it's meant to be crushed underfoot. It's meant to be rolled over. It's meant to be the black canvas on which the white oppressor paints the picture of his intrinsic superiority. The black page on which Whitey writes the tale of subjugation. And Joe says, Secretary Mayor Pete, you've done your country a great service today. In fact, I'm so proud I don't know whether to poop or fart. And so Secretary Mayor Pete Buttigieg went out there and he gave a master class on intellectual tour de force and the racist underpinnings of the U.S. transportation infrastructure, and all who heard it were better for the hearing. Thank you very much indeed for watching. See you back here Thursday. High five to the Fifth Circuit Court. Job well done, laughing Joe's vax mandate out of the courtroom with a laugh and a sneer. So until next time, have a pleasant tomorrow, continue not complying, and get off my lawn.